And now let me turn you over to my good friend and fellow polio champion, Tom Gump.
Well, Nancy, thank you so much. Those pictures and your story and all the work that you do is just inspiring. It's an honor to be on this panel with all you polio warriors. I'm just honored to be here. And thank you, Zones 33 and 34, for allowing me to share a little bit about what clubs can do in our polio eradication efforts. So, this is a picture of actually a transit station in Pakistan. And those are frontline workers that we're going to be talking about later, along with Fez and Aziz and President Stephanie. So there's three major things that a club can do to help with the polio eradication effort. And that's fundraising, like Nancy just was talking about, advocacy, and raising awareness. So when it comes to fundraising, we have an annual goal in Rotary, in the Rotary Foundation, to raise $50 million, which of course is matched 2-to-1 by the Gates Foundation. So, of course, we welcome individuals to give, but we also ask each club to give $1,500 towards that. The district governor is here on the call. You could actually encourage the clubs when you go there and ask them how they do it. We do it in two different ways at my club. We sell poinsettias during the holiday season, and then we sell flowers during Mother's Day, and we raise about $5,000 every year. That all helps. The other thing we try to do is we talk about each of the districts giving 20% of their district designated funds to this effort, which is matched by the World Fund by 50% and then matched again by the Gates Foundation. And we usually try to get at International Assembly, get the incoming governors to commit to that right away before the funds get used for other reasons. Now, of course, this year's a little bit different because we have a funding gap. There's certain communities and certain countries that are putting more dollars towards defense and things like that. But you know, there is good news because we have other countries who are giving more, such as Saudi Arabia, who's committed 500 million, 100 million a year, every year over the next 5 years. But it's just something to keep in mind when you're fundraising, to let everyone know it's really important and it's more important than ever. And even though we're this close, we're 99.99% there, you know, the last miles are hard because of where we need to do what we need to do. That border region between Pakistan and Afghanistan is hard country. And you might see in some of the videos that the Gates Foundation puts out regarding steps that have to be climbed, a ladder of 1,000 steps, and mountainous country. And of course, there's armed conflict going on in those areas. And even though the countries that are at war, they provide security, it's still a dangerous task and expensive task to do. So I love this example of what Nancy and Colleen and her team did to raise that 604,000, going to 1 million soon. It was inspirational to hear about that. So thank you so much, Nancy, for all you do, and not just now, but all the National Immunization Days that you go to, and just everything you do to eradicate polio. Now, the one thing that we really need to think about are polio plus societies. When I talk to Rotary International staff, I ask the question, does it really make a difference when you have a polio plus society? And it does. And in our zones, I know that I've studied the districts that have a polio plus society and the districts that don't. And it turns out that there's more regular giving, and there's just an opportunity to remind people when you are part of a polio plus society. And some people think, oh, our district already gives enough, and we don't need that because we're already generous givers. But the reality is, when you form a polio plus society, it does help. So the next thing we have to talk about is advocacy. This is on a transit station. This particular transit station, the buses come into Pakistan, and the military gets on the bus to actually look for contraband and things like that. But then it allows the frontline workers that we saw on the front page to come in and actually give those precious drops to the children on the bus. And I'll tell you, they serve 3,500 children a day at this one transit stop, and that's every day, 365 days of the year. So it's just amazing what our frontline workers are doing in the areas where it's most needed. Now, what clubs need to do is advocacy. I have a few advocacy pictures here. This was with President Stephanie last year meeting with President Bongbong from the Philippines. And it was wonderful to hear his story about how his mother in the 80s would go with the local Rotary Club to administer those drops. So our leaders, like John Germ here on the screen, and our current leaders, Francesco, our IPPC, International Polio Plus Chair, Mike McGovern, they're all in Pakistan now doing these same trips. This is when we met with the Prime Minister. But it's not always on the international level, and it's not what our Rotary leaders are doing that's the only thing that's important. This is a local province. And the only reason I show this picture is because it's the picture that I look the most funniest of all the pictures I've ever seen. I won't tell you what Stephanie says that hat looks like on me. But anyway, um, I bring this up because all of you as club members, it's not just about what's going on with governors' estates and things like that. It's what's going on in your own local community. You know, the best thing we can do, whether it be disaster response or anything else, is to talk to the people who are in your club, the mayors, the city council members. We could do advocacy at all levels, and we need to do it at all levels. So that's one of the major things you can do as a club. So the other thing that we need to talk about is raising awareness and doing things like Nancy did with the torch. But anything you do, I mean, we even during COVID, we had a virtual scavenger hunt where we sent people out in our district. We had a command center in my office, and then we had different things that were related to polio. Like we had go to the store and buy some eye drops, and whoever got through the scavenger hunt the first, won a prize. But there's all kinds of things you can do. We've all heard of them, the pints for polio and the pins for polio and all those things. But we need to do something. And this is the time of the year, the best time of the year to do that because we have World Polio Day coming up. And you could have all kinds of experts come speak to your club. You can get banners made. We had a giant T-shirt made and had drones fly over. There's all kinds of things that you can do on a club level. And don't let this World Immunization Week and the World Polio Day go by without scheduling something at your club. You can have letters written to your newspaper, and things like that. One thing that was fun that we used to raise awareness last year is President Stephanie, with the help of the Rotary Foundation staff, had a strike out polio baseball game. Now, the reason I put this under, yeah, we did raise over $2 million together during this event, but I put it under this getting the awareness out because, we did have a suite where people paid money to sit in the suite, but the local Pittsburgh Rotary clubs had 400 people who weren't in the box but sat in the general seats, and they were selling koozies and they were selling T-shirts and all this stuff. So it's amazing how just one little event can get the awareness out. So we should try to do that at our clubs. So just in summary, because I know that we're in a tight time schedule, we want to ensure that we do that fundraising. We want to ensure that we get the $50 million through personal contributions, our Polio Plus societies, our clubs giving the 1,500 or more, and of course, all the other things that we talked about. And then we want to make sure that we create those Polio Plus societies. We want to advocate for polio whenever we can. If you see something in the newspaper, if it's a positive article that makes sense, share it on your social media. Let people know that polio is still out there and we still need to fight about it. We still need to make sure that we eradicate it. And then, of course, the World Polio Day and Immunization Week we need to talk about. Now, I often hear people say, well, we've been doing this a long time. There's donor fatigue. There's fatigue in general for our battle that we need to wage. But I know after this last year, traveling with President Stephanie around the world, that we are going to end polio. And the reason I know that is because I met the frontline workers, 90% of which are females who are mothers also. And you could see it in their eyes that they want to eradicate polio. I mean, we've had over 40 martyrs in the history since the early 80s when we started this, late 70s. So people are giving their lives for this. When you see them and you meet them, you feel their passion, we're going to eradicate polio. This gentleman here working in the lab, those people this is in the National Emergency Operations Center in Pakistan, and the people working there are so excited about the advancements they're making, where it used to take weeks to go in and actually try to locate where the source of an outbreak is. Now they can find that outbreak in a matter of days. And seeing the excitement of those people, I know that we will reach our goal of eradicating polio. And thank you very much for letting me share a few thoughts.